Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Glory Hunters. Welcome to our Monday podcast. This is my little soccer football pastor podcast. I'm with Glory Hunter Nick, and he always helps me out to teach me what's been going on in the game. And what's been going on in the game just this past weekend, we had the North London Derby. Also, Man City went up against Nottingham Forest, and this is the race for the Premier League title. None of these games were particularly spectacular. Arsenal wiped the floor with Tottenham. Was that a little bit of a surprise to you that it was just that easy to victory? Because Tottenham still is, I think they're trying to secure a Champions League spot.
Yeah, it definitely surprised me. I thought it was going to be a closer game than it was. Spurs are no pushovers, and yeah, they've definitely still got a lot to play for themselves. Arsenal almost bowled it towards the end, but yeah, as soon as they went 3-0 up, I was thinking, wow, like...
This game's over. It felt over about 20 minutes in the first half, and it just we never looked back. And then the next game that came on was City Forest. Forest actually coming over from some controversy that I also want to talk about really quick. I'll actually put up the tweet in a second, but City pretty much disposed of Forest 2-0. Injury to Ederson, which we'll get into a little later. This is going to go right down to the wire. But the way I understand it, if Arsenal just wins the rest of their games, and even if City wins the rest of their game, the title is theirs. Is that correct?
City's title to
because they're point behind.
Everything, City win the title because they're one ahead.
So City win. So City win and had the title. So okay. So if all things are even and everybody wins, City wins. So somebody's kind of got to make a draw or screw it up at the end here for City to lose. They were my prediction. Not particularly surprised there. I actually want to go over some of the games that are coming up in the next few days as far as just Europe in general, European leagues. Bayern going up against Real Madrid. This should be a Classico, and not in the strictest sense, but certainly a wild game. Bayern seems to be getting it together after a lot of upheaval and losing the league. They can kind of just focus on Champions League now. How much of a threat are they going to pose to Real Madrid? Do you think this is going to be much of a series, or is this going to be a situation where Bayern gets punished even though they're playing a lot better? Or are we talking to a series that goes right down the line?
I like to think it will be a series that will be very close. Arsenal looked in much better form going into that tie against Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich obviously came out on top. City gave Real Madrid a really good run until the end there as well. So, yeah, I think it should be a close match-up as long as Bayern show up. They showed against Arsenal. They're still good enough to compete at the top when they're playing well. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah, and it also puts us all in an interesting conversation if they come through this. And we're talking about where Thomas Tuchel's role, because then it'll really get serious. We mentioned last week that some fans are actually starting a petition to keep him, which is bizarre to me. So that's Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. It should be good. I do worry about a situation where if Bayern has to be in top form, because if they're anything the way they've been like in league games in recent weeks, I think Real will really put a punishing to them. But they did look really good against Arsenal, and certainly they're no slouch. They're about to be the champions of the Prem. The next big game, a little shocking to see BVB Dortmund against, and this also poses a bizarre question with Kylian Mbappe kind of being quietly led into the semifinals. So some of the like Messi, Neymar, they couldn't get him this far. Mbappe's done it by himself. Where do you see this going? Because I think most of the bookies are going to have Paris Saint-Germain over Dortmund, but Dortmund's kind of snuck in here quietly, and they're certainly not a pushover team. Well, how do you see that game going?
I think I'm going to stick with the bookies on this one. But Dortmund have done really well to get to where they are, but even still, it is a bit of a surprise that they're there.
Yeah.
I can't see them going that one step further after and beating PSG. Mbappe his final year in PSG. He's going to win going to want to win that Champions League. Sorry, and yeah, just overall quality of that PSG team is better on paper than Dortmund. I would expect PSG to go through this one.
We haven't heard Mbappe's name in the media as much as he still gets a lot of mentions. If he wins the title here, is in the Ballon d'Or talk for this year?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
100% he will be. You know, he's going to have the Liga title. He would have the Champions League in this scenario. And then, obviously, whatever his performance can be with France in the summer, 100% he'll be right near the top of that conversation.
I'm not familiar with France's cup competition. Do you know how that finished up this year? Who won that title, or if that title's still up for grabs?
I would guess it's still up for grabs, but no, I haven't followed it myself.
Does he have a shot at a treble here?
Maybe. Yeah, if PSG is still in the cup, then yeah, definitely.
And then you'd have to give it to him. I'd almost say if he pulled a treble, yeah, sure. Certainly he's going to play a big role. I don't think that's going to question. I can't imagine him going soft. He's a big game player. He showed that in 2 World Cups already. Let's go down to Europa League. Roma versus Bayern Leverkusen. Bayern Leverkusen, they have a pact with the devil. And I see them going right over Roma. And if Roma takes the league, I expect several players on the pitch to drop dead. It is just amazing what Bayern was escaping a defeat again. Just this weekend, in the final kick of the game. We're not talking the death. We're talking the final kick. They managed to get by Stuttgart. When Stuttgart looked like they had him dead to rights, same thing happened. Alonso puts in Ritz. Ritz gets the final assist. They close it out, and they're able to pull the tie and keep the invincible streak going. Does Roma have a chance against the devil?
I mean, when you put it like that, no, they don't have a chance in hell. Roma themselves are in really good form, to be fair. They've really turned their season around after getting rid of Mourinho, bringing in De Rossi, so they're going to be formidable opponents. But yeah, like, it's at a point now that I don't even get excited to see whether Bayer Leverkusen will manage to pull it back or not. It's like, oh, they're losing.
Actually, on the more serious side, I think this might be their. If I had to put money on this, I think I'd put Roma on there. I think there's a real value. Roma's been here before, and they lost last year in the final. I've noticed that teams, when they get that close and they manage to put themselves in a position, they usually close it out. They usually close it out because they know the experience, they know what the type of pressure they're dealing with. Leverkusen doesn't have that type of pressure yet, so I think if Roma's able to defeat Leverkusen, I think that'll probably be the biggest reason, because there's a lot of young guys in there that haven't been deep in a competition like this, and that'll be. But I wouldn't be super shocked if there's some kind of miracle either. I'm getting like used to it. It's like John Cena kicking out of a 3 count or something at this point. It doesn't even seem real. But they really have been the story of the year for me. Bayern Leverkusen. That being said, the best media stories have come for Bayer Leverkusen. Let's go to Atalanta Marseille. This is an interesting match because it's 2 teams not only that you didn't expect to be there, but 2 teams that have quietly gotten there. It's almost like when you got PSG versus Dortmund, you kind of know to go to PSG. This one, I don't know I have no idea. I just know Atalanta beat Liverpool. Where does Marseille stand against Atalanta?
It should be a really interesting matchup, to be fair. Obviously, Atalanta knocking out Liverpool was a shock for, I'm sure, everyone. But at the same time, Marseille knocking out Benfica was a bit of a shock for me, considering Benfica went really far in the Champions League last year. Yeah. And Marseille are another one like Roma, where they switched managers earlier in the season and they've completely turned their form around. And so going into this, you've got Atalanta, who just beat Liverpool, probably the toughest team in the tournament, versus an informed Marseille side. So yeah, I think it's definitely fair to say this is a really tough one to call. I don't know, maybe Marseille do it because they've got the experience of someone like an Aubameyang up front, who's now the competition's top goal scorer.
Look at the book. The book's almost got it dead even, and they're actually Ty's got the best odds, but it is dead even right down the line. Look at that. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you though. Finish your prediction.
Yeah, I was just going to say maybe Marseille step over the line here with the experience of someone like an Aubameyang, but yes, it's a very, very tough one to call.
All right, that going into our next game, we're going to conference down. I really haven't paid attention to conference. This is a league I probably only pay attention to if one of my teams was in there, or like a Celtic or something like that. Aston Villa, England's last hope, and if I'm saying this correctly, Olympiacos, out of the Greek league. There is something big on the line here. What were you saying before the show?
So essentially, with the new Champions League format, you've obviously got the new system where 2 leagues in Europe get 5 Champions League spots.
Nice.
Serie A, the Italian league, have already sealed theirs, 100%. The Bundesliga are basically guaranteed the second one, but there is a very, very slim chance that the English league gets it. And basically, it fully relies on Aston Villa winning this tournament and the German teams left in European competition losing their remaining games. So you'd need to see Leverkusen lose twice to Roma, and Bayern to lose twice to Real Madrid, and Dortmund to lose twice to PSG. Incredibly, unrealistic, but there is the slightest hope that maybe that happens, and if Villa win this competition, England would get that last spot. So I suppose there is the tiniest reason to keep an interest in this if you're not necessarily interested in the competition and those 2 teams. But yeah, there's a bit that could come into play for Champions League places for next year.
Well, the book seems to be in English favor, because you can see how heavy the difference is here. You got a full 6.5 points. If you go with Olympiacos. So this, according to the book here, Villa should cruise right through it. Do you think that's fair? Do you think they should cruise right through a team like this?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Olympiacos are a decent side. They've definitely come up with some big performances against English sides in the history. You know, they knocked Arsenal out twice in a row, I believe, in the Europa League in the last 5-6 years. But yeah, Villa, they're punching up at top 4 level in the Premier League at the moment, you know, which you look at the clubs around Aston Villa at the moment in the league, the teams that they're beating and staying above are a much higher level team than Olympiacos. So yeah, I would go with the bookies on that and say Villa should win this.
Well, I definitely did. There is a 12-man situation when they have to go to Greece afterwards. That is a wild stadium. I recommend that all Englishmen not act like assholes when they're over there, because they don't play in that part of the world. Just some friendly advice to our Aston Villa. The Aston Villa is also the Prince's team, correct? That's his team.
Yeah,
that's
Williams' team.
That's his team. I thought it was interesting when he was interviewed by who's a big, tall, goofy Liverpool?
Peter Crouch.
Peter Crouch, good guy. I shouldn't have called him goofy. Yeah, fuck him. He's goofy looking. I mean, come on. Didn't they chant with Crouch? Is this the circus or something like that?
Something along those lines.
Something along those lines. Awful.
To be fair, he would probably agree with you if you called him a goofy looking guy.
He's a goofy looking guy. Hey, great player and one of the highest goal scorers in Prem history. No slouch. And a Liverpool legend for sure. He said that one of the reasons he kind of pulled her bullet because it was too easy. He has to take. I guess you have to take a London team if you're royalty, right? So it's got to be like Chelsea or Arsenal. You can't pull for Liverpool if you're.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what. So
you're not Liverpool.
Yeah, well, you can't take Liverpool. So everybody's talking about Chelsea and Arsenal when he was a kid. So he just I want to support this team, and it turned out to be a real love affair. I mean, him and his boy are at just about every game. So yeah, I'm rooting for the Prince's team, and I hope they do. I hope they do really well. That's on that side of the semifinal of the conference. This is, although strangely enough, I have watched Club Brugge play this year against Saint, and I'm going to blow this. Saint Gilloise. They're a Belgian club. This is a very good club from what I can see. I don't know how they match up against a team like Fiorentina, who also has been there last year. So they've run deep, and if anything, the experience. But Club Brugge that's not a rollover side. I want to see how the books got it. The book has Fiorentina. The book has definitely Fiorentina cruising full points for Club Burge. How do you see this match going?
You've obviously, like, at Fiorentina, they've got a fantastic coach in Vinny Italiano. You've got some really talented players there. They're the Serie A side. They've been playing well this season. Maybe dropped off a bit in the second half of the season with their form, but yeah, still quality-wise on the pitch, they're gonna have a big advantage against Club Bruges just by being a richer Italian club versus a smaller league side like Bruges. But yeah, Bruges definitely have winning in their blood. You know, they've always been one of the top challengers for their own league, which Fiorentina don't have in them. So they're going to bring a certain pedigree that Fiorentina can't. And you know, we've seen upsets before, so you never know. But I think I'll side with Fiorentina on this one.
Side Fiorentina on this one. Premier League clubs will vote on whether they want to bring in a spending cap today. The idea would restrict top team spendings on transfer wages and free agents. You know, I have no problem with this. I have no problem with the salary cap. I wish it could be European wide. Everybody could play. It'd be like you play Match Attacks when you were a kid.
Yeah,
I just started playing this with my son right now. Well, you have, like, if you play correctly, you're supposed to play with salary cap, and both guys, you know, you have to do it with usually within 100 million. I personally like that idea. I just wonder if that breaks labor laws, A, throughout Europe, and B, in the United Kingdom itself. Is this reasonable? Is this serious, or just some court come in and strike this down?
Well, I don't know enough about the legal side to comment really on the labour laws or anything like that. But what I will say is it's a really interesting idea, because we've spoken a bit before about the financial fair play rules maybe not being the best system that we have at the moment, with it sort of favouring the bigger clubs, where it's like based on your earnings, and obviously the bigger clubs earn more so they can spend more legally, whilst the smaller clubs aren't allowed to spend as much because they earn less. So to have a league-wide spending cap would sort of help to bridge the gap a bit more there, where you wouldn't see teams like Everton and Nottingham Forest getting punished for spending big. Or
the only teams that ever get punished, we're not seeing the Chelseas and the Man Cities get. The only team are the ones that are just trying to hang on to the league, which is completely understandable. But finish up, please.
Yeah. So, like you said, they're trying to hang on to the league. You saw Leicester spending big to stay at the top when they won the title.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously they're getting point deductions and getting in trouble now because they were spending way beyond like their financial fair play, like their earnings, because obviously they're smaller clubs. They're not, they're not the brand that these bigger clubs are. They don't bring in as much money, and for clubs like Nottingham Forest, they don't get televised as much because they're not one of the big flashy names. They get less games on TV, which means less TV revenue. So a rule which means it's not based necessarily on how much you bring in, and just a league-wide cap, I think, is fairer overall, because that means the teams like Forest could spend like a Manchester City but not get punished for it because they don't make as much money as a Manchester City.
Okay, well, I always worry about the legal restrictions. In the States, they have, with most leagues, they get a sort of, I forget what it's called, antitrust, something like that. I'm really gray on the legal side myself. But there's like a different set of labor rules for sports teams. Of course, that could not be European wide, and we only deal with one other country, and they cooperate with us. You guys have to deal with a bunch of countries, so I do wonder with that. But I'm all for it if they can pull it off. I think the current system isn't working. Only the smallest teams are getting punished, and I got to be honest with you. Teams like Forest and Everton, that are smaller clubs that don't have the brands, are not selling as many T-shirts, are not getting as much TV play around the world. I kind of appreciate as a fan that they're trying to bend the rules to keep us in the league, rather than just doing what the Glazers are doing, and seems like they're living off the brand and don't care if the team succeeds. It's not fair. It's got to be changed. I think like most things that are called fair play, the headline is just that it's that what's in the headline isn't in this fine print. So we'll see what happens, and we'll try to understand it the best we can when it does. Ederson got an injury during this game yesterday against Forest. This is a huge blow because the reports are Pep Guardiola says doesn't look good. Could he be playing possum here a little bit, try to mess up future opponents, or is there any chance that does Pep play like that? I mean, he is pretty sarcastic. He does play the game. I have seen coaches do this in other sports in the past. Oh yeah, we're big problems, and next thing you know, you see him in between the pipes next week. What do you think of this? Is this for real? And if it is for real, how serious is it for City?
Well, he could be playing the game. I would not put it past Pep Guardiola at all. It's the exact kind of manager that he would say, look, like he's got season-ending injuries. Next week.
Well, he probably can't say that by the rules. If I had to guess, because he probably can't say that, but he could say it doesn't look good. It didn't look good. Yeah.
And then next week, Ederson's completely fine playing. Who knows?
Yeah.
But Ederson was injured earlier in the season. However, which if maybe it's a recurring injury, potentially he's being genuine here when he means it doesn't look good. Maybe it genuinely doesn't, which obviously is a blow because Ederson's a great keeper and he's done a lot for that club. But to be fair, when Stefan Ortega had to step in earlier in the season with Ederson injured, he didn't really put a foot wrong. He's a fantastic keeper in his own right, and I don't necessarily think it might be a big issue for them going forward. If Ortega plays like he did earlier in the season when he was given the chance, then I don't think it's really a big worry for City when all they have to do is see out the rest of the Premier League.
This is an interesting headline, but perhaps you can shine some light. Barcelona rebuild handed a blow after Robert Lewandowski decision. It appears that Lewandowski wants to stay at Barcelona. Normally, that would be a good thing for any team to hear. 20 goals off all competitions. I guess they were hoping Lewandowski, the rumors, some MLS rumors just a month ago. Explain this to me. Why are they upset they're keeping one of the greatest goal scorers in the past 20 years,
Well, I can only assume it's for a financial reason. Obviously, everyone knows about Barca's injury issues. Obviously, one of the main issues they're having with players at the moment is the wages. They're struggling to register all their players because they're going over the wage threshold which they've been given by the league. And so you've got to assume Robert Lewandowski's a big earner. And so they were probably hoping, all right, we've got this big contract coming off the books so we can put these younger, newer players onto the books to replace him. And now if he wants to stay, it's like, well, we've got this huge contract that we were sort of planning on him going, and now all of a sudden we're stuck with him. And he's a great player, but again, he's an old man. So how long do you have left of that? Next season could be the season he completely drops off, like the wheels fall off of his career, and he ends up scoring like 10 goals or something unspectacular. But you're having to pay a lot of money and miss out on registering certain players because he's taken up such a big part of the wage bill.
Gotcha. All right, I got it right there. All right, how do I say this? The Scudetto. This is their championship in Serie A in Italy. How do you say that? Scudetto.
The Scudetto.
I'm saying it correctly. Well, that's amazing. This is a little bit of the party. Looks like a great time. Absolutely amazing here. Inter Milan, of course, wins it a year after Napoli did. Not too much of a surprise. They were the Champions League runners-up. Looks like some good stuff. Do you expect them to do anything in the Champions League next year? Outside, the Inter, AC Milan. And one of the great things about this league, it seems like they have a new champion every year. It's like MLS, in that aspect. Are they? I'm not afraid of this team like I'd be afraid of a Leverkusen. The next year is this team a future team? Are they building on something, or is this just a one-off championship and there'll be a new champion next year in Serie
A? Well, there might be a new champion next year in Serie A, but I don't necessarily think that'll be because Inter would have dropped off. I think it will be like an AC Milan, who obviously have done well this season, are sitting in second, I believe. Maybe like Leao starts hitting his full form again for the whole season. Pulisic steps up from his form this year, and AC Milan all of a sudden jump back up and they're in the title talks again. Maybe Napoli find their form again after sacking another manager. Who knows? But yeah, they obviously made the final the year before. against Manchester City. This year, they probably should have gone through against Atletico Madrid, but they had a bit of mistakes at the back from Benjamin Pavard, which ended up losing them that tie. So I reckon they are a team to fear next year. Certainly, you know, they've had some really fantastic form this year. They played really well in some of their games in the Champions League. Obviously, made the final year before, and probably should have gone further than they did this year. So definitely a team to look out for next year. Whether they'll win it, probably not, but they're definitely a team to look out for.
You think it goes as far as the semifinals?
Potentially,
Yeah,
depending on the run, you know, it always got the luck of the draw in there. But I think, they're a quality side. Inzaghi is a fantastic coach, and they've got some good talent already lined up to come in. They've got Iranian striker Mehdi Taremi from Porto, who's been banging in the goals over there in Portugal. I know he's already signed on to join Inter in the summer. So, yeah, interesting to see how they do next year.
Real quick story about their rivals. We touched on a little bit in a previous episode. Oliver Giroud moving to LAFC. That's great for American soccer. You guys you're getting a real treat over there in LA. And they have they've had a kind of a so-so start. I think something tells me Giroud will pull them out of that, especially with this. I can't imagine him not having chemistry with Dennis Mwanga, because that seems like it would be a deadly thing up front. Nobody's really talked about, and I think it's probably because of Giroud's age. He carried this team this year when both Leao and Polisek seemed to cool off, and they did have cooling spells. So it's probably the reason they didn't really fend for the title even more than they did, and let Inter kind of take it pretty early. There's still a few games left in the schedule for Serie A. How much is AC Milan going to suffer from losing a player like that? Can they replace it and be effective? Because I just don't. Who's going to lead the two kids with Polisek and Leao? I just, if they get cold, I could see a real disaster situation. Like, who comes in there? Do they make a big signing, or do they go with somebody that's already there to take Giroud's spot? Because that is a hell of a shoe to fill.
I'd assume they'll make a striker signing in the summer. Certainly, there's been talk of someone like a Jonathan David from Lille coming in, he's been really good in France recently. So, you know, the reports suggest they are looking to sign someone. I think you definitely need to, especially when you have a striker like Giroud leaving. He's been fantastic for them ever since joining from Chelsea. They definitely need to replace him. But yeah, you always run that risk where if your best player is going cold and you lose a big man like Giroud, how are you going to replace that? I guess you kind of got to hope that Leao and Pulisic don't go cold next season if you want to win the title. That's basically essential. And yeah, finding a replacement for Giroud that can fill those shoes to an extent where there is so much to fill, where he's not just a goal scorer for them, his hold-up play is second to none. And so to find a striker on the market, which AC Milan can necessarily afford, who can fill the goals and the gameplay that Giroud brings, is going to be a very, very tough choice. But maybe they can make enough improvements around the team as a whole that maybe if they can't get someone quite as good as Giroud, the rest of the team will be able to bring the level up enough that they can still be title challengers, even if the striker position's a little worse off.
Okay, we saw a little bit of an argument, got heated between, and what's supposed to be a big send-off. We had the discussion last week whether they should, whether Liverpool should have announced Jurgen Klopp's leaving so early in the season or not. It seemed to give him a boost at first. That boost, I mean, Salah, Darwin, they have not been. They've not been really a force to be reckoned with at all. They've been just quite off. They're having bad games at the end of the season. It could be because of exhaustion. I know Jurgen Klopp has. He thinks they play too many games. I tend to agree with him. But that being said, it looks kind of ugly. You saw Darwin had to step in between. Both Jurgen Klopp and Mo Salah. It was like, you know, it was like watching your parents fight. Like, you know, Mom, Dad, knock it off, please. You know, it really looked awful if you're a Liverpool fan. I don't want to say this. Like, this whole thing breaks up, but this is starting to look like a sad send off for them. And on top of that, Salah's got no plans to leave. I guess he wants to be a coach. 2 questions. A, how do you close out this Liverpool season? They're not winning the title. They don't deserve the title. They weren't able to keep it up going in the long haul. How do you sum up Liverpool's staying and season, and what do you think that with Salah staying in Liverpool, what that means for the club in the future, which I think is generally a good thing. I also think it's time to take a summer off and reevaluate. Lucky for Liverpool, I don't think there's any tournaments for him to play in this summer. I think he gets a full nice break. Yeah, I don't think he really has to do much. So where do you take? What happens from here on out?
Well, first off, the fight. Obviously, we don't know exactly what it was about, but to me, that reads as just full-on frustration because they were in that title race. They were potentially going for it. They were in the talks for winning Europa League, and it's all collapsed around them in these past few weeks. That I think it's just complete frustration from both Salah and Klopp, and obviously other players, where they're just clashing heads because they're just angry about how it's all collapsed at the end for them. And certainly keeping Salah on board though is huge for the club. Sure. He's one of the greatest players in Premier League history. He's one of the best Liverpool players ever. He's one of the best players ever in general. Yeah, really. So his form's dropped off a bit the second half of this season. All right, maybe he takes that into next season, who knows. But even still, like a Salah who's not quite fully on it like he has been in the past is still a very good player to have.
Sure.
And he's a leader in that team, and that's one of the things that you've got. Jurgen Klopp leaving, he is this team's leader. He is the man for them. You're losing that. This new coach that comes in, they're going to have to try and establish themselves with the fans and the players. Whereas Salah doesn't need to establish himself. You've got such a benefit there where you've got a team leader in that squad like Salah, who's been there, he's won it, he's got the experience, he's got the fans behind him. That's going to be a stabilising factor that Liverpool are certainly going to need next season. So to these reports saying that he's going to stay is definitely a big boost for Liverpool going into next season with Jurgen Klopp bowing out.
Do you think, because it would it look like, if I could describe the situation, Klopp leaned in and whispered in Salah's ear, and Salah took exception to it, to whatever Klopp said to him. And maybe did he lean in like, when I'm gone next year, this is your goddamn team. You better show up. That's like, oh yeah, you son of a bitch. I'm not doing enough for you. Come here. And you got Darwin Núñez. Hey, come on, calm down. Let's settle down. We got a game to play. That's what it looked like to me. It was sad. It was. I don't like. I don't like. It shouldn't end like this. It shouldn't end like that. I'm sure it's nothing. Look, players get in fights all the time, but that's not the last image I wanted to see. I guess for a fan, and I'm somewhat of a Liverpool fan, it was just a sad way to go out. That little topics. Our Ten Hag. The headline here is out excuses Manchester United are a mid-table team. Is that true, or does a new coach come in here and make them a viable? I'm not saying Champions League, European team in the future. I wouldn't say that the roster's untalented. Am I wrong there with United?
Not entirely. Yeah, there is definitely some talented players in that squad, 100%.
Yeah. So what happens here? I mean, he's probably gone even if he wins the title for some wild reason. If he wins the FA Cup, I think his time has run out. He's had his chance. That chance is over. It's time to try somebody new. Did he not have the players to work with to win the Prem, to do more damage, to finish higher up the table? Because right now it's looking like there's no Europe next year for Manchester United. Think about that.
I mean, yeah, certainly the squad isn't at the level it needs to be. I think it's a case of Erik ten Hag hasn't been good enough and the squad isn't good enough. But to say he hasn't had the players, I get a lot, yeah, maybe. But then you look at some of his signings that he's made. You had Donny van der Beek come in. Anthony. Where the hell's he been for the past 3 years? Anthony, they spent. He was the biggest advocate for Anthony. That was his guy from Ajax. Cost massive amounts of money, and he's been nowhere near good enough for them. You got Casemiro, who's like fallen off a cliff this season because of his age. You got to think the scouts must have been looking at him and his age when they signed him, worried about potentially does this happen. And at the back they've not been good enough. So yeah, I think it's a case of, you can say Erik ten Hag hasn't had the players necessarily to fully succeed, but at the same time, his personal signings haven't been fantastic. Him tactically, the picture just isn't there for them. It's a lot easier to defend a manager if 3 years in you can see what his idea is, but the players aren't good enough. Who's watching Manchester United and being like, oh, okay, you can see what they're trying to do here? No one does that. They're completely far off it tactically. They're completely far off it talent-wise. They need a lot of transfers to fix the squad around those good players like a Rashford or a Kobe Mainoo.
You're not saying that the roster is untalented. You're saying there's not enough talented players. There's not enough talented players. Do they have? So I just want to be clear. They have the lineup to get in Europe, or they don't have the lineup to get in Europe, because that would actually push a lot of blame away from Ten Hag if that's the case. If he doesn't have the tools, he can't do the job, or it's the tools that he brought in with guys like Anthony, and he should be blamed for that. I guess to make it, is this his fault he's in this position? Does he deserve to be fired?
I think so. I think he deserves to be fired. I think part of it is his fault, but then a lot of blame also lies with the board as well. I think it's just a complete shit show at that club.
Gotcha. Okay, this is the part of the show where we get to talk about what we want. We have lots of football interests outside the big stuff, and some stupid ones too. And this is something I love to do as New Jersey's come in this time of year and all through the summer, and we'll be going over the stuff we find the best. And the first one, strangely enough, is Bayern Leverkusen. 1 out of 5. What are you saying here? Next year, 1 out of 5. What do you think?
I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest.
You're not a huge fan of it.
I think it's fine. It's not a kit that springs out to me and makes me really want to buy it. It's like
it looks classy. It doesn't look. It looks classy. I can't tell because of the footyheadlines.com thing. I'm glad they got their plug in. Congratulations. I can't see the stupid thing. You could have put it in the corner. I think there's some kind of design. You've seen this a lot more. You've seen a lot of designs within there. There looks like a lot of crosses, I guess, because they're owned by a they actually get to play around 50+1. They're owned by a corporation. They make Bayer is pretty much the pharmaceutical part of the country. I want to get a better look at these crosses. It looks a little odd there, but I do like it does look like a traditional jersey. I know I'm giving it. I'll give it a solid 4. How about that? 4. What are you going with?
I'd give it a 3.
3.
Middle of the road.
Yeah, 3.5. I'll get a 3.5 out of you.
If
No, 3.
It just doesn't excite me.
3 it is. 3 it is. I want to talk about something you want to talk about. In the semifinals, after extra time, after taking a 2-0 lead, unlike my team, Braintree Town, your local, taking on their derby, Chelmsford. I bought the match. You know that it's $9 a match, and I actually bought the wrong one first. So they got 18 pounds out of me instead of 9 pounds out of me. Yeah, I know. I'll show you what match it is. Maybe we can watch it. I don't know. Maybe we'll cover one of their games in the future. I think that would be kind of fun. This is what, 6 going on the 5th league. That's what they're going to. Are they trying?
Yeah, this is 6th tier promotion to the 5th tier.
5th tier. It looked like a lot of fun. As my wife came, my wife caught me watching the game. She goes, "Looks like Tommy's club." my son's club. But it was definitely it's really like it was cool to see what a small club like that had a great crowd on both ends. It looked like it had a lot of energy, and boy, you should have heard the announcer. Well, he was pulling for Chelmsford. Oh boy, when they tied it up 2-2 in the death, whereas 89, I think it was 89th minute, 87th minute, somewhere around then, he went berserk. And when you guys went in extra time and made it 3-2, he wasn't as happy. I guess you don't get the professionalism on that level. He didn't even fake it. But this is a huge win. You haven't beat these guys in a decade or something like that.
Something like that, like half a decade. It's been a very long time since Braintree last beat Chelmsford, and yeah, to do it in the playoff semi-final at their ground was absolutely glorious. And the stand they gave us was absolutely disgraceful, by the way.
Well, what are they going to give? I saw you complaining about that, and if you could have saw him complaining about that if you joined the Glory Hunter Discord, because we got live pictures. We all of us go to games. We usually take pictures and put them in there. You guys are welcome to do that. So, like, what are they going to do? It's an Olympic. It looks like a high school for me. For an American, it looks like a high school stadium. Where are they going to put you? They're going to give you a suite? Like, what did you expect?
Well, they could have given us one of the actual stands that you could see the game. I couldn't see like half of the pitch in the second half. I couldn't see.
Oh, really?
Because it was literally like a flat road with 3 rows of seats at the back. The front row you can't sit on because everyone stood at the front in front of you, so you can't sit.
Yeah, everybody's sitting on the thing and leaning over. I noticed too. And if you weren't tall enough,
it was basically just a flat road with a couple of seats at the back. It was terrible. like Braintree's ground is no palace, it is. But at least all the way around the stadium, you've got like slanted stands where you can actually stand and watch the game over the people in front of you instead of having to like stand on your tiptoes looking over someone's head. But
so, your next match, May 6th, against Worthington. What do you know about this, and what are your odds? You guys. It looks like it's dead even, and this will mean promotion if you win this, correct?
Yeah, that's the playoff final. Worthing, they were the last team I wanted, actually, because their form going into the playoffs has been... Basically, the 2 most informed teams going into the playoff were Braintree and Worthing. Worthing went on like a really good run, like right at the end, whereas Braintree from like New Year's onwards have been pretty much unbeaten the entire time. So these are probably the 2 most informed teams going into the playoffs in the final. It'll be a nice day out to Worthing to go and watch this final. I'm looking forward to it. But
are you heading there? Are you going?
Yeah, I'm heading there.
What time is it? 4 p.m. May 6th. When's May 6th?
It's bank holiday Monday.
It's
next
Monday.
week.
I am gonna do the game. I think on here. I will do the game if we can get one of the other guys to do it with me. Maybe Green Man will have the day. We have fun. We'll actually try to stream it live. I'll buy the game. It's only $9. Well, it's £9, which means it's like $150 for me. But
they were the team that knocked us out of the playoffs last year as well. So it's a bit of a revenge match if we can beat them this time.
Revenge match. They have a really good system here. I think first team goes automatic promotion. 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. Is that the way it works?
So basically, the way it works is second and third miss the first round. They get a bye in the first round. So 4th place 7th and 5th place 6th. And then the winners of those 2 first games play 2nd and 3rd. And then the winners of that round go into the final.
So 2nd and 3rd, and the winners of that one's going to okay.
So there's a reason to finish 2nd or 3rd to try and get as high as possible because you can skip a whole round.
It's like fun. It looked like a lot of fun for local football. I call it small football, but I'm a big proponent of it because you really can get a lot of it. I hear a lot of, it's not exactly a small league, but it's still, compared to the Prem it is. People like, well, Americans I know, like, I'm not going to watch. Like, you have no idea how good you have it. And some of these smaller leagues, they can be electric. And there's lots of great stories there. And you said you're more into this now than Chelsea, correct?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's just different when you're able to go and watch them every week. Like I couldn't afford to watch Chelsea every week as much as I would have liked to.
Yeah.
And because it's like an hour and a half on the train to get there, and it's like a bit of a nightmare. Whereas this is literally round the corner from my house. You can hear the stadium when we're playing from my house.
It's electric.
And so, yeah, to actually go and see the team live, and you can build a real connection, especially when it's your local. It's like where you're from. There's just so much more. Yeah, there's so much more like there for you as a fan to go and see your local team, even if they're nowhere near the levels. When you're there, you sort of forget about the levels. To be honest,
yeah, I get that because my team's VNV spot. It's about the badge. It's not about all the the big sports thing. It's really really great. They're talking about there's a League 1 and 2 in the USL. I don't know how that's going to work. Looks like they're very serious about doing Pro Rel next year for that particular league. You Americans out there, give USL a chance. All the games are free on YouTube. Every one of them, both leagues, if I'm not mistaken. It's easy to follow them. You can follow them on FootMob as well. Let me know what that's like, because the culture inside England with these smaller clubs is amazing. It's amazing. I think it's a lot cooler in England than it is even in Germany, because once you get down to regional leagues, it's not the crowds are just not there. It's only league play and up. It's third and up. So yeah, go check that out, and that's what I'll do. We also had a 2-goal lead after we have one of the best defenses in the league, and it didn't show up. I saw situations where Gunther Firth. We played Gunther Firth, and it was. I'm actually kind of rattled over the whole thing. Triple teaming in the box, and they were able to pass with impunity. And they turned that 2-goal lead in the first half to a 3-2 lead by the end of the half. And then we got a penalty to tie it up, and then dropped 2 goals. The team seemed to completely and totally fall apart. I love this team. I watched them get promoted. I went through that whole small football thing, so to speak. And you guys use the word gutted. Now we're in a situation where at almost best case scenario is relegation playoff, third to last place, which is how we got third place last year, to beat Bielefeld and knock them to the third league and have us go to the second. And within 2 hours of that game, it was announced, and it actually, I was surprised how many German papers picked it up. We lost our coach, which is a guy I see around town, and it's kind of like what you're saying. Like, their guy, they're right around the corner. You can hear them when they score at night. It's a bus ride away from me, and I see this guy around town with my kid. It's really sad to see him go, but he really couldn't. He didn't. One of the biggest criticism of Marcus Kaczynski was that he was not a proven second league coach, and that he wouldn't adjust. They were dead center of the table by the half by Christmas. After the German break, Germany goes on like a full month break for football in all leagues. He just never recovered, and I don't know what happened. And it's just, I don't know what else to add to it other than this sucks. This really sucks to get promoted. And apparently this has been a common thing for Wiesbaden the past couple of years. They'll get promoted. I think they were promoted in 2019, right back down. Promoted in 2023, and it's looking like we're in a right back down situation. The only question I have for you is 3 games left in the season. I've been bitching about this all day to my wife. My wife told me to shut up about it. Is it appropriate to fire this guy? I do think he does bear some responsibility for this. He never really got the forwards to settle up until yesterday, and the defense didn't show up. Is this fair or even responsible? It doesn't seem to serve any purpose than somebody else's ego. They put a thing out on Twitter. We're proud to let you know the coach that got us promoted, we're parting ways with him right now. And it's just like, you fired him. Like, give me a break. You fired him with 3 games in a row because you're pissed off. Somebody got their feelings hurt up in the office. Is this smart, or is this just Bush League bullshit?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily smart, but there have been some cases in the past where you get the new manager bounce, as it's often referred to, where you sack a coach and then whoever comes in, the sort of like their first game or two, they get results out of nowhere.
But it's not November. It's not February. It's not November. It's not February. It's April. It's April and May. That's the thing I don't
obviously,
like.
Yeah. It is very late to do it, but you've seen it sometimes in England where it's worked, where they've sacked a coach right before the end, brought someone in for the last couple games just to save them. So it's always a desperate attempt. I'm never a fan of it. I don't think it's a good strategy. It's not something you've planned out at all. It's blind luck if it works or not. It's sort of like their last, like a final gambit sort of thing. But yeah,
and the coaching staff, his coaching staff will still be there for this final run. You know, and if they're able to somehow get a relegation playoff or maybe inch their way and just stay in the league, which does not really look possible. They very well could find them in the second to last spot, and that'll be it. They'll be down in the third league. I just, yeah, it's desperation, but is it really? I don't know. I can't see. Yeah, I guess if it works and everybody says, "Hey, we fired the guy just in time," but then it seems like how much of it it's unmeasurable whether you can say that it had any kind of impact or not. You know, it really, and at the end of the day, and I'm sure the players are feeling this because I've met some of these guys and I generally like them. I don't know if they just gave up in the last 2-3 minutes. They got some bad calls that didn't go their way, or it was just some kind of mental. They didn't give up, but it was just a mental collapse. That's not necessarily giving up. It's just a breakdown of communication, breakdown of everything. Maybe the reality set in for all of them, and they just got blind. And the fifth goal was, I mean, God, 5-3. It's a hockey score. It's not a football score. I just don't see this making some kind of magical impact. And I wonder if there's somebody up in the Wiesbaden office that's worried about you losing their job. You know, I do. I wonder if there's somebody that they're just showing that they're doing something because they're going to get fired either way, which would be also unfortunate. But it just seems very Bush League. At the end of the day, it's up to the players. I could make criticism of Marcus Kaczynski. He's also, but I mean, it's just like, you know, a year later, it's what have you done for me lately. A year later, it just seems like we've forgotten everything that he's done. And the fact is, they didn't score. They didn't put it in the back of the net. He can't kick the ball for them. So it just seems really unfair, kind of Bush League, very desperate. And I don't really think it accomplishes much of anything because even if they're at 6th seed and they manage to stay in the league, which was the only goal, that was the only goal for this season. It doesn't seem like, oh, by the way, they just re-signed him for another 2 years. He had a 2026 contract. They were so happy with him. They re-signed him in the middle of last year before he was promoted. It just doesn't seem like you can say that this particular action had any sort of impact. It just seems like blind luck. I don't know. That's all I really got to say about that. Unless you have anything to add, we'll end it.
No, that sounds about right.
All right, everybody. That's it. That's all we got. We'll probably see you Friday. I'm still working on what game we're going to broadcast. I haven't done my rant yet. I'm probably going to do Vayhead Wiesbaden and New York Red Bull or Metro Stars this year. Metro Stars, top of the table, but it looks like Miami might struggle for the night. That might be interesting. And all the best to you from me and Green Man, who couldn't be here today. And we're join the Discord. Be a part of this project, this community project, and we'd like to see you around. Have a great one, and we'll see you Friday.